New recording, beautiful, because I want to talk about one of my favorite setups that NVIDIA just did. And I actually do like square, so we're still in square. We've lowered the stop, so that way we can lose small on the trade. I like this little lower shadow that came in. Anu says it was a sell. That is correct. Yep. Bearish limit sell. I think we've posted that. Yeah, Brad posted that. So bearish. So we're losing on the trade. We're down on it right now. But we have a stop in place so that we hopefully can lose small on the trade. But let me pop over to NVIDIA really quick. XLNX is still open. But on NVIDIA, so let me talk about one of my favorite patterns. For those of you who use moving averages, and there's definitely a few of you, I really like it when the stock gets in between the 10 and the 20. So let me kind of write this down. I love it when a stock gets between the 10 and 20 EMA on the non-extended hours and throws in a lower shadow for an evening star reversal pattern. And the reason I'm staying in square and the reason I liked it, I was hoping that square would react a little bit more like NVIDIA did. But let me just talk about this particular pattern because again, I really, really like it a lot. I'm gonna zoom in here for a moment and I'm gonna kind of go walk through two of them. So I'll look at this one and we're gonna look at this one because they're both kind of the same pattern, but just one's a little bit bigger than the other. And this particular pattern obviously is for those who are using moving averages. If you don't use moving averages or use a different moving average, that's totally fine. These are just some of the ones that I use. But here's kind of what I'm looking for, is when the stock gets in between the 10 and the 20 and then throws in a lower shadow, right, below the 10. So throws in a lower shadow below the 10 right there. And then you have an evening star reversal-esque pattern. So here's your evening star reversal-esque pattern. Here's another one that actually was really perfect. And here's the one right here on NVIDIA. So these patterns I like, that evening star, that lower shadow. So this is the pretty much perfect evening star on NVIDIA. So with this lower shadow here and this lower shadow here, it would have been as simple as getting in bearish right below that low. And you know, later in the day, did the exact same thing. So bullish candle, hit the 20, evening star reversal, threw in a lower shadow. Entry would have been right below the low of that lower shadow. Stop would have been right above those pivots. And that would have been a really, really nice move. So that is a really saucy setup that you can look for in the afternoon. You can look for it in the morning. I mean, it's a good pattern. And usually it takes a little bit longer, around, you know, an hour or so of market open, at least, you know, for the stock to be interacting with the 10 and the 20. On XLNX, you can see that, I mean, you don't really get that exact particular pattern. But this candle, this pattern up here, we should probably cancel this setup because if we're going to get in, we would want it to get in a little bit better. So once these candles came in, you got the big sell-off, the shooting star candle. If we're going to short it, we need to be below that shooting star with the stop up there on XLNX. So I don't really want to wait for it to get all the way down to here to then get in bearish. So since we're getting and setting the trade up bearish, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this one particularly since we are in square bearish. So go ahead and cancel XLNX. Go ahead and cancel XLNX day trade. And so again, folks, for anyone who is asking, a lot of you asked about text message alerts and alert services. If for anyone who does subscribe to our trading room channel, we will have you have the option of selecting it as a text message alert. So anytime that my Brad or Blake or myself type in the word day trade, you'll get a text message alert to your phone, so you'll know what we're doing. And that's a really, really nifty tool. I use it all the time when I'm trading by myself. Kind of see what everyone else is trading. So again, Square did break down that lower shadow. We have lowered our stop, and the goal of Square, I don't know if this is going to happen, but the goal of Square is for just some nice selling to come in and hopefully break the low of these candles over here. This probably will have to be a target if we actually ever hit it. Now this target at this point is right at an R. So the good news is if we take this trade and we end up winning on it, we win on this trade, but you lost on Goldman Sachs. The great part about risk mitigation is if we win more on this than we lost on Goldman Sachs, then we'll be profitable for the day. We'll just have to see if that happens. You know, I like potentially Square rolling over, but it's obviously taking some time. Here's the 15-minute chart. And this 15-minute chart could be throwing in a potential double bottom. In fact, that 5-minute candle is coming in right there. It looks like that's exactly what's happening. Because this is a retest gap actually on the 5-minute chart. So black candle, black candle, black candle, gap down a little bit, and it's retesting. Did anyone get a chance to trade Caterpillar? So here's Caterpillar, and it did trade back up to that limit sell that I was talking about earlier today. So this is when this particular limit sell, remember, this is nothing special. This is just off of this previous support right here. So Andrew's in it, beautiful. And realistically, this is all that, you know, if you're playing Caterpillar, this is all you really had to do. So at this particular juncture, if you are in on that, you most likely are going to want to decrease the stop a little bit because, again, Caterpillar down right at 10% is a lot. We have taken out the lows. We have made lower lows. I mean, it could continue just to slowly creep down. But if you are in on Caterpillar, you're most likely going to decrease the stop a little bit, even if it's just right to here, so that you're going to lose a very small amount if it does, in fact, kind of pop over here. Because again, that was just a nice retest. A lot of black candles in a row. Definitely don't want to short the breakout in a situation like that. And again, there's kind of the retest. Goldman Sachs, I can take off the list. It did eventually end up bouncing where we could have maybe gotten a super small gain, but oh well. It didn't do it the right time. SPY is down 1.2%. So it looks like it's just kind of chopping around most of the day. CRON, beautiful pullback on CRON. WD sideways, 3M sideways, Amazon, wow. It actually looks like the market's going to try to bounce here a little bit. Ron says, AMD trade down to the open price. Would you look at a scalp intraday long after a pullback? So what's interesting is this is pretty much the exact price we were looking at earlier today to get in bullish. It did eventually trade back down to that particular price. So if you're looking at getting in long for a scalp, I mean, it's hard to say. It's at a very weird looking location because we did make a new low. So we actually did make a lower high at this particular juncture. So with 1, 2, 3, 4 bearish candles in a row on a 5-minute chart, I agree with you. It doesn't look super bearish right now, but that could just be setting up for a nice little retest or it retests and rolls down. So I guess if you're talking about a scalp, I mean, sure, possible. Some possibilities. So now we have this bullish candle on Square with decent volume, and this is the candle that we need to break down in minutes, realistically, if this trade's going to end up working. I do like the fact that our stop is above the 10 on the 15. That's certainly nice, but this is the perfect spot right here for it to either roll over or bounce. And I really don't know which one it's going to do, so I'm going to keep my eyes on it. And again, XLNX, we still could play it. I just wanted to get in a little bit higher or a little bit of a different setup than it was. So NVIDIA also has kind of made that little double top. You're posting a super small white candle. For those of you who look at the VWAP, we're below the VWAP. And if you turn the extended hours on, you know, there's your moving averages. So there's a little bit of weakness there. Here's Facebook. And Facebook, not much happening on Facebook right now. Here's the actual cues, the broader market. And again, another gap down on the cues on the daily chart. So here's Apple, which reports earnings tonight. Tomorrow. And yeah, this is going to be a fun, very, very fun earnings gap to be looking at for sure on Apple. Here's Google. Google's also hanging out. So most of the stocks, most of the market are gapping down today. I did get a lot of questions about this QTT swing trade setup. And this is it. 871 versus 701 still has not filled yet. Danny says, Jeremy, when you're setting up your day trading plans, do you look at level 2? No, sir, I do not. Valid question. So QTT, this is the swing trade setup on this one. 871 by 701. And the low of today was actually 871, so it hasn't filled on that yet. I do like that trade though, and it does look pretty cute. This is ticker symbol HUIA, HUA. And HUIA, this is a really pretty pullback on this stock. Had a gorgeous move, and we're going to be looking at setting this one up for an official swing trade this afternoon. Remember, just keep in mind, for anyone who's watching this recording or you're here live, there's still 250 people here live right now. There is more coming. 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the swing trading room, which also everyone has access to for free. So make sure to be there. Totally accessible for anyone in the world. And if you want, I'll also show you very quickly a nice little tidbit for where you can get some information. So if you sign in into your RLT account, you'll notice there's a lot of links down here. So all of these are affiliate links that you can use anywhere on the internet. So if someone does indeed use your link and they sign up to the trading room at some point in the future, I will pay you 150 bucks cash money. Send you a check in the mail. So if anyone out there are really good sales, you're great at sales, you want to get people into real life trading, want to help them grow and learn and understand the markets, the movements, you can use these links. Just throwing that out there as a little bit of a tidbit. All right. Carity says stop loss question mark. I'm not sure what stop loss you're referring to, Carity. Can you help me out on that one? Jurgen says, where's the other trading room? It's from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be another link. If you registered, Jurgen, on this little link right here, so I'll be happy to send this to you. If you use this link to register, Jurgen, you're going to get automatically registered for it. So again, the afternoon room is 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern. It will be another webinar. It will be another webinar link. And if you have already signed up and registered, you probably already have access to it. Verity says on HUIA, where's the stop loss? So are you able to see, I don't know if you can see my screen, I hope you can. See this red line that says stop on it? 1894, that would be the stop loss if you're looking at getting into HUIA. That would be it. All right, so back over to Square, just hanging out for right now. A little bit of an upper shadow, chilling for the most part. Back over to XLNX, it's still sideways. Seagate, still sideways. PayPal. Again, PayPal also did not look terrible either. This one could be a nice breakdown later, maybe. NVIDIA, again, had a really classic, just double top breakdown. There's your white candle, took out the low of the white candle. So NVIDIA is going lower, and so I'm hoping that if NVIDIA goes lower, it'll just kind of continue to press Square down. Again, it may or may not, but it is definitely taking a long time. I agree. It's taking longer than I would like to, but I will say I do like this close. I like the close of this candle, so it's not too bad. Again, the stop is nice above the 10 EMA on the 15. So we'll see. We'll see what the market gives us later this afternoon. If we kind of get any kind of sideways sell-off, little breakdown, it could be good for the afternoon. PayPal, yes. If you're looking at getting in bearish in PayPal, Carity says a bearish stop limit equals a buy. Well, you're not going to be buying if you're bearish, right? So if you're bearish, that means that you would be selling short there. And the stop loss would be obviously here above that particular area. And also you could be buying puts. You don't have to buy, you don't have to sell a stock short. You could play put options if you want to. By the way, thank you, Brad, for answering all the questions about options. I will throw this out here. Like I said, we have all week to trade together, to learn together, to ask really good questions, to grow, to prosper. I have some incredible option videos that are listed nowhere on the internet. So for all of you, if anyone ever gets the opportunity to join real life trading for future references, I will be happy to send you all of these option videos as well. Every single one of these videos goes into the option charting basics of think or swim. This is the absolute zero method, straddles and strangles, scalping, day trading absolute zero, options insight, how to day trade options. I have a lot of good videos that you cannot access anywhere on the internet right there. So again, for those of you who do join and sign up for real life trading, let me know if you want these, and I'll be happy to give those to you at the end of the week. Carlos says, when you put in your R into your journal, do you put the R minus commission? It's a very valid question. You can, if your R is small enough that commissions will have that big of an impact. I'll put it this way, Carlos, there's no real downside to doing it that way. Wonderful question. My boy Donnie Williams says, do you ever short again to average up? Like when you shorted square and saw it approaching resistance? That's a very valid question. Sometimes, yeah. Every now and then. Michael says, I'm sorry, I was in a meeting. Are you in a square trade? I am. You know? 75.32, and right now the stop is 75.80. So Donnie, very good question, but it really all boils down to can you lose small on the trade? So if you do average down, as long as you lose small on that trade, then sure. If the math is right and everything works out in your favor. My girl Arabia says, can we short Facebook soon? Looks like a double top recently. Great question. So this is the 5-minute chart. What a nice long down here. Look at this. So here's this beautiful support. All kinds of bearish candles coming in through here. Made a new low. This is where all the newbies are getting in bearish, and they just get hosed. Some nice hosage going on right there. What a beautiful rollover off the, you know, just look at these moving averages. This is so pretty. You probably played this, Arabia, knowing you and your ways. Right there, entry there, stop there. Boom, S-curve, trade back up, consolidation for 20 minutes, and then a breakdown. It's a really pretty move. So let's talk about Facebook right now. What's it doing at this exact second in time? It's pretty sideways. Again, this is an hourly support. So down here, we have a decent little support level on Facebook. So if I have this pennant pattern on Facebook, 15-minute chart, what would I need to see to go bearish with puts? This is the 5-minute chart. If Facebook closed below this candle on a 5-minute, so if it closes below that candle, I would be okay to buy puts on a retest with stop loss up here. Let's see if it can close below the low of that white candle. Other than that, it's kind of a little bit sideways presently. Just a little sideways. There's a lot of sideways out there. I'd really like Square to break down. That would be nice. PayPal still very sideways. So NVIDIA kind of popping. AMD just hanging out. Caterpillar, talked about getting out of that earlier. SPY trying to bounce. CRON just hanging out, having a field day. Quran just going bananas. Some traders asked about Tesla earlier, and Tesla not really doing that much. Nice little lower shadow. Earnings around the corner on Tesla. So just chilling on that one. Florin says, Jeremy, why don't you have tight stops? That's a very valid question. Tight stops, Florin, usually lead to getting stopped out a lot. That's really it. My theory is if I have a nice, comfortable, loose stop, that way I can move my stop, and eventually if I do get stopped out, I can lose pretty small. And it gives traders also a lot more room to hold a trade, to be patient, to really implement the strong building blocks and foundations of a good trader. Using tight stops just simply requires massive experience in the market. To know where a stop needs to be, to get an idea of where it should be, to understand the candle sentiment, to really be great at zooming in and zooming out of smaller time frames. Because again, if you had a tight stop on Square, you would have already been stopped out 3 or 4 different times, depending on where your stop was. So in a choppy market, I like to reduce size by widening stops. Great question, very valid question. So again, folks, if you don't mind asking these questions to all panelists and attendees rather than all panelists, that way everyone can see them and they don't think that I'm just chatting with my imaginary friend. So my boy Daniel says, do you use put sales in your trading strategy? Daniel, I use them all the time. Yep, I love selling puts. If so, do you have a target on for your premium capture? I do indeed. So my target on my premium capture, Daniel, is 50% of my put sale. If I receive 50% of my put sale within a week of selling it, I will buy it back. After that, anytime I get 75% or more on my put sale, I will buy it back after 75%, unless it's more than 5 strike prices away out of the money. Then I'll just hold it to expiration. Mark says, the tighter your stop, the better your timing must be. Yeah, that's all it is. You just have to get really, really good at the candlesticks and phenomenal timing. Most likely it's just really practicing some super, super nice entries. So for example, like right here on Square, when I was talking about it earlier, if you're going to get in there or the stop loss there, that would have been a wonderful trade. Just that one trade alone would have been absolutely sensational. The other thing too, Florian, just so that you'll know is, with this particular trading session, there's a lot of traders here who might not have ever traded real money before. So I want to do some comfortable stops, a little bit of a wider stop, let some traders have a little bit of a heartbeat, feel the pulse, being in a trade, see it, feel the emotion of being in it, and not getting stopped out immediately. A lot of people will tell me that they get into a trade and they get stopped out immediately. So it's just a good little practice I like to do. So this particular bounce right here, I think the SPY just made that new high. Yep, so SPY just popped. So the SPY did just pop. So if we hop back over here to Square, it looks like it's going to try to form potentially a double bottom like this. Maybe. Again, where we have our stop right now, we're going to automatically lose less than our risk on the trade, which is good. The VWAP is 75.65 for those that use that, so that could be a little bit of a resistance. Let me go look at PayPal. Yeah, PayPal had a little bit of a bounce as well. I'm okay to hold just a little bit longer, but it won't be a massive amount longer. I'm trying to track down, because right now there's just a lot of sideways movement. Donnie says, when nobodies aren't here, do you ever play the super movers like AVCO? AVCO, I mean, usually no. Usually no. Every now and then, if I can see a good entry on a really cheap stock with low volume or something, I'll play it. But, you know, on a move like this, it just comes down to volume. This thing did have good volume with 12 million shares on average, but we normally don't trade pump and dumps. Yeah. There's a lot of people who do, and there's some people who can make some money on them for sure, but that's not super common to what I'll normally trade. It's a valid question though. Aaron says, what kind of ratio do you like to target with your stop loss profit goal? Honestly, man, anything better than a 1-to-1. That's really it. 1-to-2, 1-to-3, anything more than a 1-to-1, thumbs up. The more the merrier, right, my friend? All right, so let me hop over here to the Qs. I want to see how hard the Qs are bouncing. Because again, it really is a decently bearish gap, but it looks like we're going to try to pop again off of this support. So again, here's the hourly chart. If I turn the hourly, let me just turn the moving averages off. Look at just the candles. I mean, it's a decent bearish gap, but we are getting some lower shadows. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So here's NVIDIA. NVDA with that really pretty breakdown. Just really, really gorgeous, right below that candle. Very nice move. I love that pattern, just right below that candle. Boom, boom. That would have been a good trade. And realistically, I mean, it's not bad because what's just happening with this little lower shadow is it's retesting this low on NVIDIA. AMD looks like it's trying to break down a little bit farther. It doesn't have to by any means. Caterpillar's coming all the way back for another retest. And for anyone in this particular trade on Caterpillar, again, just with the blue chip stock, you're only going to move down so far. So with blue chips, you really got to be, you know, quite optimistic. Well, sorry, you shouldn't be too optimistic with how far it's going to trade down, you know. So, for example, on Caterpillar, if you're in bearish with shares or the put option, this is one of those situations where if I get some kind of lower low or lower high, I'll take some profit. Here's a really good rule that I think a lot of you could implement with your trading. If you are in a bearish day trade and it makes a lower low with 3 or more bearish candles in a row, take a gain or exit a partial or something like that. So this is a wonderful example. I get a lot of traders ask me like, hey, when do you take partials? When do you exit new positions? You know, things like that. I prefer to exit into strength. So right here, when Caterpillar makes that new low, we can obviously see you had 3 bearish candles in a row. So 3 bearish candles in a row makes a new low, great time to take a profit, right? If you're in puts or you're shorting the shares, it's a really solid spot to do that. Same thing with bullish trades, obviously. If you're in bullish and it makes a new high with 3 or more white candles in a row, feel free to take some profits. One of the things that helped me immensely in my trading was me understanding this. I will never exit at the exact bottom or top. The reason me telling myself that over and over and over, it really does help when I'm getting into a trade and I go, all right, well, if I'm getting out here, most people will think, well, dude, what if it goes lower? Yeah, it probably will. In fact, there's almost a guaranteed chance that it's going to go lower because I'm never going to get out at the exact top or the exact bottom. It just won't happen. It's so rare for that to occur. If you, again, understand that that is massively important in your trading, that you're never going to get in the exact bottom or the exact top, it's okay to simply take some positions off the table. Lock in some small gains, lower stops, and be in a situation where you can lose very small. So this is another perfect scenario on Caterpillar, right? Like if you shorted this breakdown with a stop up here somewhere, and it makes a new low right there, 3 candles in a row, you exit some of the position, right? Exit some of your bearish trades. Obviously, we can see it went a little bit lower, but that's all in hindsight. We don't know how low something's going to go to the penny until it happens. So it's just a really good rule to keep in mind. In my personal opinion, it's helped me a lot with trading. Because if you can appreciate and understand that you're very, very rarely, if ever, going to get out at the exact bottom of the exact top, then just let it happen. Get out, take your profits, because your job in trading is to simply manage risk. And if you manage risk, you will come out profitably if you hold your winners long enough. All right, that's going to be the key. Carity says, you trail stop limits. So when I'm exiting a trade, I do trail my stops, but I do those manually. And I think you've seen a great example of us doing that. I mean, here on Caterpillar is a great example. So I mentioned if anyone got into the trade at 124 and their original stop was 125.90, you could lower that to 124.81. So yeah, I do trailing stops, but I do all my trailing stops manually. So for example, on Square, we can see that it just doesn't seem like it's going to want to work. It's trying its absolute best. I do want to keep my stop above the 10 EMA on the 15-minute chart, though. So if I hide all these drawings, that's this red line. I would like to keep my stop above there, just in case it has a little bit of an interaction and it causes it to press it lower. But again, right now, I mean, if we get stopped out on this trade, then we lose 2 small trades on the day, and that's fine. That's okay. Lose small, manage your risk, on to the next day. XLNX is just trading really sideways. So again, we've canceled that trade, fully out of it. Seagate, Seagate is really not bad if this candle closes bullish. This one right here. If this candle closes bullish, it might help me just stay in Square longer. Same thing with PayPal. PayPal's trading a little bit weak right now. NVIDIA is obviously a little bit weak as well. It just kind of keeps breaking down. AMD hanging out. Caterpillar hanging out. SPY's trying to go higher. Axel is asking, is Caterpillar a double bottom on a 5-minute chart? If Caterpillar closes above 124.68, yes. Which again, that's very good to know, and that's beautiful insight, because that certainly could happen. So if we close above this line right here, then I will be most happy to just look to flip and get into a bullish position potentially. We'll kind of have to wait and see, but that is definitely a possibility. Florian says, why do you trail your stops and don't fire and forget? Risk mitigation. Sometimes I'll set up a trade and just walk away all day. That happens pretty frequently. And I like that approach. I like getting into a trade, having a stop, and just walking away forever. Or for a certain period of time. I think that's pretty wise. In fact, for most traders, that's a really great idea. So yes, very often you'll see me do that, where I'll just get into a trade and I'll just let it do its thing, and I'll keep the stop there and just hang out. Won't move it, won't adjust it. But at some point I can start seeing, with other market internals, if the trade's going to work. So for example, on SPY, we made a higher low. And on the 5-minute chart, this is about to close above the 50 and take out this little bearish candle. So even though as choppy as SPY is today, that's going to tell me that most likely Square is not going to work. So I'm already putting into my brain that with SPY popping higher, Square most likely is not going to work. So what that does for me is it tells me, all right, well, if that's the case, then if it doesn't work out, it kind of gives you that confidence of, all right, well, you thought that was going to happen, so good job. Again, I want to keep my stop above the 10 on this 15 because it has interacted kind of bearish with that price before. And we'll see if that ends up getting pressed down. Maybe it does, maybe it does not. What I can say, and what's nice about Square is, as far as a swing trade's concerned, there's a lot of traders in bullish right now on Square as well, just with all kinds of different strategies, all kinds of different setups. Mostly, put sales, everything from put sales to share ownerships and doing covered calls. It really is a nice little retest of that gap down and just doesn't look like it's going to quite break lower for us. So again, this is this 5-minute candle right here will be a nice little upper shadow, and we'll probably end up moving the stop to that price. Amazon down 2.7, 3M kind of bouncing. WDC is pretty flat. CROA just slowly grinding higher. Z-Link's trading sideways. SPY, Caterpillar, AMD, NVIDIA. So again, NVIDIA just looks it looks weak. It really does. Are there any other questions, any stocks that anybody else wants to look at? Anything that you might have a question on, perhaps? This is a great time to check out some stuff, look over some things, pop around, see what's going on. Here's Microsoft. I know a lot of you were looking at Microsoft earlier today, and it's just realistically hanging out. Bob says, Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers did not bounce bullish. I was actually keeping an eye out for a bullish move on Weight Watchers. For right now, man, I think that's a nice bearish trend. If it's not going to bounce bullish off of the 200 simple on a weekly, so here's the 200 simple on the weekly. Obviously, what you're thinking is this could be a spot where the stops get run and people just get stopped out. Certainly plausible. I could see that. If I was going to short, based on this move, I'd probably short a pullback. But I'll say this, based on this particular move, I wouldn't be getting in bullish yet. Right now, trend is still a little bit bearish. Marwan wants to trade QTT bearish. So this is just a beautiful example of two people seeing different things. I see QTT as being bullish. 871 is the entry with a stop at 701. So yeah, I must say I like that approach. I like your thoughts on that. Aaron says, I've been watching FE in an upward channel. First Energy is in an upward channel. Like, this is the weekly chart right here. And what Aaron's looking at is pretty much just a classic buy the dip. There's your angle 1. There's your angle 2. And it does look good. I have to agree. Looks nice and toasty. Corey says, I'm liking JD for a swing trade. So JD, we were looking at this earlier, and on the 5-minute, I'm glad I didn't buy at 24.01 because that would have been almost the exact high of the day. Had a nice little pullback to the 20, and has been slowly chopping around. I do like JD as a long swing trade. I'm just giving it time to see how it interacts with the 100 simple on a daily. I actually think this is a nice longer-term buy spot on JD.com. And there are some traders who are in some shares and in some longer-term calls, bullish on JD, hoping this one does eventually get a little bit of a bounce. Curdy says Apple. So Apple, with earnings right around the corner, is not going to do very much today. It did have a decent gap down, and like I said, it already threw in a very, very fast bearish S-curve, and that was pretty much it. So it threw in the bearish S-curve. This is the 3-minute chart, so boom, 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 and then it had the quick rally, and now it's just quite sideways. What I can say is it is back up to a resistance on Apple. So if you were looking at getting in bearish on the daily, on a day trade, this is a nice little triangle pattern right here. And it had a good volume spike. So I'd probably look to, if that does trade down, I'd probably be interested in buying that dip. But right now, if you were shorting it, it would be below the low of this candle. I'd probably just wait it out since earnings is right around the corner. Let earnings come out, and then we can play some Apple moves. Carly says, hey, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on getting into an Apple straddle leading up to earnings? I would wait. Apple usually doesn't gap big enough for a straddle or strangle. Yeah, so it could, but most likely, if Apple does gap, it usually gaps like the 6 to 7% range. You do a straddle or strangle, you normally want a good like 10, 15% gap. So I would wait it out personally on Apple. Any semiconductors that you have upcoming earnings that you would buy a put on? Well, the only semiconductor play that I'm in personally is Micron, and I do have some put options on Micron. Arabia says, is it a bad idea to day trade on earnings days? No, it's not a bad idea. I usually, on a big name company, like an Apple, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, unless the gap is just phenomenal, perfect in every way, I normally wait. Or I'll try to do the exact opposite of what everyone else is thinking. Because again, blue chips very usually kind of acts kind of weird on earnings. I prefer non-earnings gaps. Those are definitely my favorite. Yeah, if it's just randomly gapping, I like that. But Alex says, what broker do you use to trade and how much do you expect to pay for commissions? Alex, at this point in time, you should never really pay more than $5 per trade for any broker. $5 per trade should be the max. I use TOS and IB. So $5, you should never pay more than that ever again for the rest of your life. So $5 per trade, $2 per option max. Now that's going to be US brokers. You know, if you're in a different country and let's say you're in Australia and you're trading CFDs or something, I don't know the exact broker commissions for that. But again, you should never pay more than $2 per option. $1.75, $1.25, $1, somewhere in that range is good. But that's pretty much it, my man. Good question. A lot of good questions out there, for sure. Matt says, how do you get tossed at 5? I'm at 695. Call him, man. Call him, say, I'm quitting and switching some other broker. They'll make it $4.95 for you. That's it, bud. Call and ask. Be a squeaky wheel. Marwan says, I lowered my TOS commissions to $4.95. Very nice, Marwan. All right, so on Square, we do have this new upper shadow. So what we're going to do is I'm going to now lower the stop on Square to above that upper shadow. Make it 75.71. Lower stop on Square to 75.71. All right. Just going to come over here, update stop. And I can cancel this guy. So with this new upper shadow, I mean, again, if it breaks above that, it's going to go crazy high. Joe says stop market. Yes, always stop market for your exits. Now, we can see that it did interact with the 10 on the 15, right? It had that interaction, so I wanted to wait for that to occur before I moved the stop down, just in case it gets pressed lower. It probably won't, but I've seen crazier things happen. So at this point, I think I can take this off. just so we can really see the candles. And obviously it is sitting out here. There's a little bit of a trend, something like this. And just doesn't look like it's going to quite break down. 75.71, that is the stop loss on Square. And everything other than NVIDIA is just sideways. AMD is really sideways. Caterpillar. Caterpillar looks interesting. SPY. Looks like SPY is going to keep grinding higher. CRON. Someone was asking about WDC. Danny says, what are your thoughts on support a few years ago still being valid? Looking at WDC, I've seen it to the previous support, but it's back in 2016. Yep, you are correct, Danny. And usually if I'm using massively long-term supports like that, that is for a longer-term trade. Right? So if I'm in WDC and I want to buy this longer term, I want to be in this one for months or a year or two, then I will absolutely really zoom out and get big picture support. This is the same support that I had on Western Digital, this 41.56. So that's the support level that I have drawn. I don't have any long-term or short-term position on WDC right now. I do believe it is a dividend-paying stock, so it's a blue chip stock out of support. You know, so if you're looking at getting in, I get it. I understand. But again, it's going to be kind of like a long-term perspective, at least for me. That's kind of my thoughts and feelings on it. Great question, though. Very good question. So again, this is the daily chart on WDC. This is one that we were watching this morning, and it did have a nice gap retest that I would love it to have opened below this low, but it didn't quite get there. This stock has been just an absolute rampage monster, Lulu, on an absolute tear over the last few weeks. And Alibaba, BA did fill that gap. I forget who was asking about that earlier. But the good news is, again, I recorded the session, so feel free to go back and check it out. But the analysis was that this would likely happen on BABA, right? This is the last time we looked at it, BABA was right here. So the analysis was, let it pull back, buy the dip, and it most likely will fill that gap, which it is or has. And I like BABA. I mean, BABA's fun. Earnings right around the corner on BA. I have a few people playing this one a different way. I have a trader whose name is Lee. He sends some shares with a covered call. My buddy Falco has a 140 February put sale. So Baba's doing its thing. Jason says, what's your thoughts on MRK for the rest of the day? Merck & Company? Not a lot of thoughts on this one. Very small move today. So this is a pharmaceutical. And realistically, earnings is just right around the corner. I think this would be kind of fun to watch for a swing trade. So you have this double bottom, this double top look right here. A little bit of a double top, kind of a retest of the neckline, small pennant pattern forming here on MRK. So this one could be a cool earnings play if it does gap down. But I mean, as far as today's chart, I don't see a lot of momentum or movement in any specific direction. Some bullish movement, obviously. I don't think this one would have been on my radar to catch, but we can see it over the last few minutes. It's a nice little bullish move. I wouldn't buy it at this exact moment in time because right now it's making a brand new high of the day. You have a lot of white candles in a row. So it would be my thought that I would like it to pull back and you would buy the dip on MRK if you are playing it. I'm just waiting it out on this one. We do have a swing trade set up on MCK. Is it MCK or MKC? I think it's MKC. MKC. So the reason that I did this one, this is the daily chart. And I don't look at Bollinger Bands all that often, but they are pretty cool to use every now and then. What's interesting about these Bollingers is this is a dividend blue chip stock, and you had a gap down and it closed with a white candle outside the bottom band. That's a pretty strong signal. Usually when that happens, you're going to get a fade back up into the, into the Bollinger at some juncture. So here's the hourly chart. And again, I'm actually looking at this one as a bullish perspective. Obviously, the trend does look a little bit bearish. No arguments there. But if we can break above, I think the risk reward is relatively decent on this one. And it would be a fade higher on NKC. All right, so back over to square. And we're just sitting here, about to get stopped out any second. So if we want to avoid slippage, go ahead and market exit out of square to avoid slippage. So which means, we got 1 penny away from the stop. It obviously looks like it's going to hit it any second. You do have a few white candles in a row. You're getting a little bit of an upper shadow right about here, but it doesn't look like it's going to hold. So, good try. Good try. Had a beautiful, beautiful pattern. Did end up being green for a very short period of time, right into here. It just didn't quite happen. Didn't roll over. That bullish trade this morning, though, that was a very fun mover. So out of square, 75.65. 75.65, so out of square. And again, pretty decent small loss. I love it. Florence says, how do you decide using different indicators like Bollinger Bands? I honestly, on NKC, just pulled it up to see what the Bollinger Bands were doing. That's really it. I was just interested to see what they looked like. Usually, I don't really use them that often. Robert says, do you have SWK on for the afternoon? Stanley Black & Decker, I believe so. Nope, I did not. I will add it, SWK. So again, this is one of those situations, Florin, I don't really use Bollinger Bands all that often, but sometimes like, I wonder what they look like. And you pull up the Bollingers and, you can see them and you can extrapolate whatever data it is that you have. Again, you'll notice, even looking at this chart, how frequently a stock is gapped down and closed with a white candle under the bottom band. This is just a random stock, but I'm trying to go back for an example and I can't even find one. Looking. There you go. There's one right there. So a white candle gapping down, closing outside the bottom band. It was all the way back in 2015, August. So relatively rare. So that's the reason I played that on NKC. I just really was kind of curious what the Bollinger Bands look like. So anyway, this one, this particular setup is one that we were looking at on Friday, and it's kind of like a cute little move. Good exit on square, by the way, team. Good try. Saved ourselves about 5 or 6 cents. Had a little bit of a pop out of there. Just didn't look like it was going to move. So now, it's a very valid question. Tim is asking, should you go long on square? And it's certainly possible. The good news is, losing so small, we actually could, and I can from my plan. We took 2 trades today and lost very small on both of them. It's either going to be, let's see, I was looking at maybe Caterpillar bullish, if it was going to double bottom. Maybe look at the SPY. So the SPY just made a new high of the day by a penny. So everyone, all the newbies out there who are playing breakouts just went bullish by a cent. So let me just see how square closes, because again, I don't mind flipping. I'm not scared of flipping at all. I will look to buy a pullback though, rather than a breakout. Because again, it's just risk reward. As long as you lose small, and you win more than you lose, this is very, very similar to the trade that I was looking at earlier today. So if we were going to go bullish, again, I don't mind flipping at all. It might actually, let me just see what this candle does. So this is going to be the candle that will really dictate that. The crazy, fun, and exciting news, type in a 3 if that time just flew by. Because it is already 1:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So normally the real life trading room goes from 9 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. It's a really fun environment. I love chatting. I love explaining what I'm looking at. Love looking at the markets, checking everything out. I'll see if I can find the trade in the next 4 minutes. I might not be able to, but it has been an absolute honor and privilege to be here. I'm going to be here same time, same place for the rest of the week, 9 until about 12, and then we'll have some traders take over and kind of talk with everybody. So if you're looking at playing square, I actually agree that I do like this little bearish candle. If this candle can close bearish, it would not be terribly terrifying to take a breakout. But if it doesn't close bearish, then you're probably going to want to take a pullback, which looks like it's doing that now. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else out there that looks interesting. PayPal, nope. NVIDIA, just a slow move lower. AMD. So again, this is very close to what we were talking about earlier today. Very close. SPY, XLNX, CRON, WDC. So that one also popped. 3M and Amazon. Anu says, what about Intel? So Intel pretty much tracking along with the other just parts of that market. Trading here, this is the 5-minute chart, really pretty sideways. Had a good gap down on earnings, gapped down again today, and is kind of fading a little bit higher. It does look like the market's going to try to slowly creep up for the rest of the afternoon. If anyone's going to look at playing square, this is how I would. I'll look to buy a dip on it because it seems like this candle's going to close bullish. So what I'm going to do is just throw this in the chat pane. You're welcome to keep an eye on it. You by no means have to trade it or need to trade it. But it has been an absolute exceptional time trading with all of you today. If you're watching this in the recording, thank you for watching the recording. I appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow for the morning day trading room at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every single day this week. The afternoon room is from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been an absolute privilege. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. And until next time, love life, live life, and trade it. You all rock.